8th round of the chess.com FIDE Grand Swiss 2021 completed yesterday, and we are going to check out the game played on the first board between Alireza Firouzja versus Krishnan Sasikiran from India. Okay, so Alireza Firouzja is white and Sasikiran Krishnan is black. So let's check it out what happened in the game. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibes. So Alireza Firouzja with the white pieces started the game with 1 e4, and Sasikiran with the black pieces replied with e5. We have knight f3, knight c6, bishop to c4. So we have the Italian game, bishop to c5, Goku piano, c3. So perhaps Firouzja is trying to play b4, a4 or a5, or perhaps she can prepare to play d4 at some point. Okay, so after c3, black played knight to f6, developing the piece, getting ready for castle, putting pressure on the pawn on e4. So white simply played d3, protecting the pawn on e4. We have castle by black, castle by white, and now we have d5 by Sasikiran. Yep, just simply going for opening up the position. We have e into d5, knight into d5, and now we have rook to e1 by white. So now white is putting pressure on the pawn on e5. So black simply played bishop to g4, pinning up the knight. So now knight can no longer capture the pawn because the queen is hanging. And after bishop to g4, Alireza played knight to d2, protecting the pawn on f3, and perhaps the idea could be to remove the queen from the d1 square to c2, and yep, then he can go all out. So after knight to d2, black played knight to b6, putting pressure on the bishop on c4. But for now, the bishop is protected by the knight. So after knight to b6, white played h3, asking the bishop whether he wants to capture the knight on f3 or whether he wants to go back to h5. So Sasikiran decided to play bishop to h5, going back with the bishop. And now Firouzja came back with the bishop to b3. Yep. And now we have king to h8 by Sasikiran. So definitely black is planning to play f5 in the position, grabbing more space. He's having much attacking chances. And yep, this is all he wants. So after king h8, Alireza played knight to e4. Black can no longer play f5 because currently the bishop is hanging on c5. So first black played knight to d7, protecting the bishop with the knight. And after knight to d7, white played bishop to d5, putting the bishop on a very nice square. And now white idea is to capture the knight so that the pawn structure would just get completely bad, and this is what white wants. So after bishop to d5, black played f5 in the position, which was actually not a good move by Sasikiran. In this position, the best move according to engine was to play bishop to d6, or perhaps even bishop to b6 was fine. The reason bishop d6 or bishop b6 is, first of all, now you can move the knight from the d7 square because now there is no longer protection required to the bishop. And even actually now black can plan to play the knight on c5. And before pushing the pawn to f5, first black should play h6, chopping this knight g5 ideas, and then go for f5. Okay, so this would have been a much better idea from the black side, but Sasikiran simply went for the f5 directly, which was actually not a good move because now Alireza came up with the knight to g5. After knight g5, white is already threatening a deadly attack, knight e6, keeping a fork, attacking the queen and the rook. So after knight g5, black played h6. And yeah, black simply allowed this knight e6, hitting the queen and the rook. Even if black tried to stop this attack from knight e6 by playing queen f6, then white still would have played knight e6, hitting the rook, hitting the pawn. And if black would have simply went to the rook to c8, defending the pawn, then white can play bishop g5, hitting the queen. The bishop is protected by the knight, and it's already looking very bad for black. Yep, all pieces are just scrambled up, and whereas white is just on full attack mode, yeah, which gives a highly winning chances to white. That was the reason queen f6 was not played by black, and black went for h6, hitting the knight, allowing white to play knight to e6. We have queen f6, knight into f8, rook into f8, and now we have d4 by white. Yep, just trying to open up the position because white is already materially up, so white will try to exchange as many pieces as possible. So after d4, white is hitting the bishop, hitting the pawn. Here black played e4. So yep, Sasikiran is like, okay, I'm not afraid of, like, if you are going to capture my bishop, I'm going to capture your knight. So Alireza simply captured the bishop on c5. And now the most natural move looks to capture the knight on f3, right? But Alireza found the best move, Sasikiran found the best move in the position for black, which was knight e5, a very interesting try by him. After knight e5, a deadly attack is coming from the black side. Black wants to capture the knight on f3 with the knight, and after g into f3, queen g6 is just a deadly move. This is all what black wants. Okay, so that is the only single move in the position which gives winning advantage to white in the position. Okay, so you know that you are an exchange plus, so how will you able to take benefit of it? Okay, that's the only single move which gives winning advantage to white, or else every other move will just equalize the position or will give the advantage to black. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for white in the position. Okay, so I think you must have had a deep thought and you have came to the conclusion that as you are as you are an exchange plus, so you just need to calculate how you can just go with the line after knight into e5, bishop into d1, what is going to happen. So if you all came up with the move knight into e5, congratulations on finding this epic move. After knight into e5, you basically sack the queen. And now white simply jumped with the knight to d7. After knight d7, white is hitting the queen as well as the rook. So black played queen to d8. And now white first captured the knight on c6. Remember, it is the only move for white to keep the advantage. Or else if white would have simply captured the rook with the knight, then simply after queen into d5, black simply protects the rook and bishop, and it's an equal position. Okay, so even if you have found bishop into c6, kudos to you because it's already pretty hard to find. After bishop into c6, we have rook to e8 because capturing the bishop is not a good idea, because after knight into f8, queen into f8, rook into d1, just calculate the materials, it's completely winning for white. So at the place of capturing the bishop, black played rook to e8, and now we have rook into d1, b into c6, and now we have bishop to f4 by white. And now just calculate the materials. It's like a rook, and it's basically a queen versus knight, bishop, and rook, which gives a completely winning advantage to white. Okay, so let's check out what happened in the game after bishop to f4. After bishop f4, black played queen to h4, hitting the bishop. Firouzja simply captured the pawn on c7. We have e3, a very nice try by him. He's trying to open up the position so that he would be able to get some chances. Now we have f into e3, rook into e3, and now we have rook to e4, hitting the queen on h4. We have queen to e7. Bishop came back with the on f4, hitting the rook on e3. We have rook e2, and now we have b4 by Firouzja. Yeah, Firouzja is just not messing around. He's like, okay, he's completely focused. He knows that he's winning, so he's like, okay, I'm not sure that I'm winning. I have to give my 100%. So he knows that he's an exchange plus, but still he's playing very, very accurately. After b4, black played queen to e8. Idea is to play queen g6, threatening a checkmate. White played rook f1. Black played queen e6. We have rook f2 going for a rook trade. We have a rook trade, and now we have queen a2 check. Bishop d2, queen to e6, c4, a6, bishop to f4 by white, queen to e7. So black is actually having no idea because black is just having a queen. He cannot do anything from it. Yeah, whereas white is having a concrete plan. White is aiming like, okay, knight e5, rook d6, capture the pawns, and okay, I'm winning. So this is what white wants. So after queen e7, white played b5 finally, trying to open up the position. A into b5, c into b5, and now we have queen to e6. Capturing up the pawn is not going to help because c6 is already very strong. So that's why queen to e6, and now we have b6 by white, still pushing up the pawn. And now we have queen b3, king g1, just preparing to put the king on h2, which would be the safest square for the white king. We have g5, bishop to d2, g4, rook to b4, queen d1, king h2, and after king h2, black played g3 check, king into g3, f4, king to h2, and on the move number 43, Sasikiran with the black pieces resigned the game, and Alireza Firouzja with the white pieces won the game. A very nice try by Sasikiran by playing f4. So basically he wants that what will happen after king into f4. After king into f4, it's actually an equal position, because after queen into d2 check, white basically loses the rook, and okay, white is still protecting the pawn, which leads to actually an equal position, which would eventually turn into a draw. Okay, white is forced to play king e5 to make a draw. Okay, or else other moves are just lost. So, but okay, Alireza was careful. He played after f4. He simply played king h2, which gives a completely winning advantage to white, because even if you try to capture the bishop, simply b7, queen into b4, white will make a queen. You have to trade the queens, and white knight is simply going to capture the pawn, make his first queen, and he's going to win the game. So this was the incredible game played by both the players, Alireza Firouzja versus Sasikiran, and now Alireza Firouzja is the sole leader of the chess.com Grand Chess 2021. And if you check his ranking on the live chess rating board, then Alireza Firouzja have just surpassed Nepomniachtchi and have came into the 4th in the live rating list. And now let's expect more from him, because the tournament hasn't ended yet. So I'm going to come up with these new videos like this. So if you like this video, then first of all like the video. If you are new to my channel, then make sure to subscribe the channel. I'm going to come up with these new videos for you. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Chess Vibes.